I'm Sarah.
And we are doing Bickering book reviews. And today we are going to talk about The Crown by Kiera. And The Crown is the second book in the spin-off series of Kiera's very popular series, The Selection. I personally consider them all grouped together, that it was basically one long story, but we're going to get into that in a minute. And this particular book is about Edelyn, who is the crown princess of, I just forgot the name of the country.
Pseudo-America.
Of the place that America turns into in a while. And she's going through her selection where she has to find her prince, and it's kind of a PR thing, but will she fall in love? Won't she fall in love? And there's also some added mystery with America, who's her mother, who was from the first book, had a heart attack at the end of the second book. And so we're going to find out, is she going to live? What's going to happen to her parents? So that's what's going on in The Crown.
So, my first question, maybe you know this, is this how Kiera saw this, how this was all going to play out? Like, did she intend to have these two books, like, from the beginning?
So, I liked the book, more or less, but it didn't feel like, here are our selection stories, and here is the heir stories, and they're two separate stories, and we have different characters. I felt like, here is the selection. It was really, really, really popular, and people really, really liked these characters, so we're just going to slide some other stuff in there and sell a couple more books to make more money.
I mean, that's kind of how it felt to me. I mean, it felt like this is just a revamp of the original selection book, and I think that's really where my biggest problem came in, because this isn't Edelyn's story. She's not America. She can't handle it. Like, that's not who she is. And so Cass is, forcing her into this cutout shape of her mother, and it's just never going to work, because we liked America because she was a fighter, the underdog. Edelyn doesn't have that. So you don't want to fight for her.
And they keep saying, I'm not a whiny princess, but she's whining about not being a whiny princess.
Well, and then, even this girl on the cover, let me get closer. Even this girl on the cover, she looks like she's looking down on you and gonna eat your face. I'm just saying. I really have a trouble with the cover.
And then, I truly believe one of the most important aspects of a good YA book aimed at a teenage girl is to have an awesome male lead. And there are so many male leads in this book. I can't remember their names. Halfway through the book, they call and they're like, Sir Fox is looking for you. And I'm like, who's Sir Fox? And then I was like, oh,
One of the suitors.
One of the suitors. And I'm sorry, but it's supposed to be this big mystery of who she ends up with. Called it halfway through the first book.
I mean, it was pretty obvious. I don't know. And I really wanted to know more about the guys. And that's kind of rare for me, I think, that as I'm reading through, I'm like, wait, but I really want to know more about what you just glossed over. I really wanted to know more about these guys.
And in the selection, Maxon had to pick from all of these girls, but you kind of got to know all the girls. Everybody was their own personality, they had their own backstory, they were kind of interesting, and you were like, if he doesn't end up with America, maybe it's okay if he ends up with this one, or maybe it's okay if he ends up with that one, but I don't want him to end up with that one. I didn't like Celeste.
Yeah,
And I felt like she really, really depended on the fact that we cared about America and Maxon. And every so often you'd be reading it and you're like, I'm kind of bored. And then all of a sudden, they'd have breakfast with her parents. And I'd get really excited and I'd what happened to them and what was their life like?
Well, I think I had a problem with that as far as I really like Maxon and America. And I'm glad we got to see what happened after the selection. But my issue was she kept name dropping from the first 3 books. And I couldn't really keep straight who was entering the picture in these 2 books, let alone who she was talking about from the first 3.
And then, all of a sudden, probably 30 pages in this book, they introduce a new suitor from nowhere. And they keep talking about him. You should know who he is. And I'm like, should I know who he is?
I know.
It's been 1.5 years since I read the first book. Am I confused? No. He just came from nowhere. It just did not work.
No.
It did not work. And I read on her website that one of the most requested things that she has is that people keep asking her for basically, I don't know if it'd be a new adult book, an adult book, that would take place in between the end of the one, which was a very satisfying read, to the beginning of the heir. And I would have much rather have read that. I would have read an adult book about America and Maxon's life and them trying to rebuild the country as opposed to introducing new characters that I did not care about.
Well, I think that's kind of where I'm at too. I think there should be an adult book about the adults and then a whole different series for Edelyn, because I just think that it's a disservice to Edelyn to force her into the same story. I think that there's so much that could have been worked with. She should have, I think that the better story would have been putting her out into the community or into the kingdom and, you know, working on the issues that are coming up. Like, get her out there. Like, I feel like I mimic a lot of how her subjects feel about her, and just they don't care, and they really don't like her.
They're not given anything to care about.
I'm not given anything to care about. I think just like the subjects thought, you need to get out there and get with your people and see what's going on, because there's going to be no progress if you have no concept of what's even going on out there. And that's another reason why America kind of was better in that she had that experience. And then Maxon, I mean, he was the tragic hero, so we liked him with that, but Edelyn doesn't have anything.
And to get to the spoiler part, the fact that at the end, she basically dissolves the throne.
What was that? It was like game time decision.
And it was like out of nowhere.
It was so, like, who, what? You don't make that big, like, you don't make this big, like, decision about a government within a second. Even though she spent the whole book talking to everybody and asking everybody, like, what she should do. I don't know what to do. What should I do?
People have to love me. I have to save people. And then she's just like, whatever.
Game time decision. We're dissolving everything.
Yeah, I just...
What?
It felt like Kiera Cass got offered a book deal because they didn't want the selection to end. Because okay, and for people who don't know, twice they have tried to turn the selection into TV shows. Twice they have filmed pilots. You can watch them on YouTube. They weren't bad. And they never actually made it to the schedule. And it is currently in pre-production to be turned into a movie. So I feel like somebody somewhere is viewing this as a money machine.
I mean, but it's there. And, like, it was even there for the spin-off series, though. Like, there were elements there that could have been a great book.
But then it makes me wonder, is this one of those, the selection wasn't her first book, but it was her first, I don't want to say good book, but actually released on self-pub book. And it's like, did that book take you like 5 years to write? And then all of a sudden they were like, we need a next book, we need the next book, we need the next book. So you just have to get something on paper fast.
See, but if that was the case, though, then the first three would have gotten worse as it went along.
But maybe
they
she wrote them all
standard.
at once. Maybe she wrote the whole arc, and she was like, this is what's going to happen. And you know what? And again, spoilers, but most people have probably already read it, that up until that moment when he actually 100% picked America, I thought he was going to pick America, but I could see it going another way.
I can agree with that.
And so that's better writing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there were flashes, though. Like, in this, I think that there was still good writing, still awesome characters, still possibly better plot points that she could have used. And, yeah.
So you ready to rate?
I'm ready to rate.
So, I gave The Crown 1 fairy. I thought there was Oh, do we need to go over our ratings again?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I gave The Crown 1 fairy. I think that there was some good there. I think for somebody who hasn't read the original series, it's probably awesome. And maybe for some diehard fans, they're like, yay, I get to read more. But I don't want to revisit it again.
Well, I'm going to rate it for me, and I say it gets 1 goblin. I mean, I can see why, if you're committed to the characters, you want to read it again. But, like, as a story, I just feel like it didn't get its just deserves. Like, it deserves so much more, and I think that it gets a goblin for me. And I wanted to like it so bad.
I did. I wanted to like
it.
Because I truly believe, when I read the first selection, the first thing I said to people was, this is teenage girl crack.
I mean, and it really is.
It really is.
Well, and it's not even just teenage girl crack. I mean, come on, there's The Bachelor, and it's essentially The Bachelor mixed with Hunger Games.
Yes.
Which is, like, awesomeness.
It was. And, like, you got to know the characters, and like you said, you got the clothes, like, all these, like, incredible clothes. And, like, Edelyn, fashion designer, doesn't talk about clothes at all.
Yeah, no big dress. Like, what?
No.
Let's just go into my mom's closet and find one.
Right.
But you're a fashion designer.
And then, even though we already rated it, then they all of a sudden one of the suitors turns out to be gay, and it happens to be the one that likes to design clothes.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. Not a win.
Yeah, I wanted to like it.
But just didn't. I liked it. I just didn't go beyond liking it.
I just didn't like
I
it.
just didn't. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're at the end, so see ya.